Hello there, and thanks for staying with us on People, Politics and Power on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television, AIT. I am Imoni Amarere. We shall continue our retrospective look at Nigeria at 57, the politics of restructuring and the separatist agitation in parts of the country, particularly in the southeast of Nigeria. There have been accusations and counter-accusations since the aftermath of the Nigerian military clash with elements of the now outlawed indigenous peoples of Biafra, IPOB, in Abia State, just in September this year. The whereabouts of the self-styled leader of IPOB remains a mystery. The disclosure a few days ago by former governor of Abia State, Ojiuzo Kalu, that the IPOB leader has left Nigeria and is cooling off in London in the United Kingdom has added to the confusion. But the Biafra trend is already eating deep into the political fabric of the southeast geopolitical zone. For instance, for a section of the Anambra people, the secession narrative will be a big influence, either positively or negatively, in the Anambra governorship election, which is scheduled for November 18, 2017. But is the secession agenda a viable option? Will the people of the Southeast settle for restructuring, that's vis-a-vis devolution of powers and fiscal federalism, rather than calling for a breakup? Well, joining me in the studio is Chief Dan Ulasi. He is a politician and a former chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Thank you so much for finding time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the debate on restructuring gets stronger as a former media aide to two former presidents, aide to former President Olusegun Obasanjo and former President Goodluck Jonathan, Dr. Doyin Okukpe, says restructuring is the answer to the challenges facing the country. Okukpe was speaking in Oshogbo, the Osun State capital. He advised all aggrieved persons to put aside the agitations for secession and concentrate on the demand for true federalism, whatever that means for whoever is talking about it. Let's take a listen.
All people who are privileged and who are part and parcel of nation building constitute the elite class. You know, the elites in the country they have failed, and because the elites have failed, there's no unity of purpose. We do not have, a national purpose, a national direction. We have a country, there's no argument about that, called Nigeria, but we have not really become a nation.
Dr. Doyin Okukpe there saying Nigeria has not really become a nation. After 57 years of independence, that's the question. In the meantime, different groups have continued to call for the indivisibility of Nigeria in the face of its many challenges. Our next report looks at some of the key issues affecting Nigeria's nationhood, including the clamor for a people's constitution and political restructuring.
It is a turn of another year for Nigeria, a country with a lot of promise at independence in 1960. The optimism that usually characterizes its Independence Day celebration every 1st of October unfortunately has some grey cloud around it. The national question that remains unanswered 57 years after independence. That quest for nationhood comes with different demands, agitations, and lately another secession clamor.
The way forward for Nigeria is for the people in exercise of the power inherent in them as a sovereign people to make through a referendum a new constitution, constituting a new political order.
Closely related to the agitation for a new constitution is the demand for political restructuring to, as it were, address all the perceived lopsidedness of Nigeria's brand of federalism and, by extension, its crises of nationhood.
This is time to renegotiate Nigeria along federal lines negotiated by our founding fathers to stem the tide of separatist feelings and agitations.
While the President Muhammadu Buhari-led government is not unaware of the crises and the legitimate demand for their quick resolution, the mode of getting the solution remains a point of disagreement.
At all events, proper dialogue and any desired constitutional changes should take place in a rational manner at the national and state assemblies. These are the proper and legal fora for national debate.
If any discourse is to take place on constitutional changes within the democratic framework, Mr. President is the one who has the responsibility to initiate that process.
But then, there are more suggestions on how to get the problems resolved on a long-term basis, even beyond the current administration.
I am an advocate of progressive and pragmatic restructuring. It is to this end that we reiterate and even expand the scope of our call for the creation of a presidential commission for national reconciliation, reintegration, and restructuring by the president through an executive order in full consultation with the Council of State and the National Assembly.
No doubt, bringing together various interest groups in a multi-ethnic country like Nigeria under a united nation requires not just talks, but talks devoid of sentiments and actions that promote equity and sense of justice.
Thank you so much for staying with us. My guest is still very much here in the studio, Chief Dan Ulassi. Chief Ulassi is a politician and a man who's been around for quite a while in Nigerian politics. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you again
Right.
for having me.
Let's begin by looking at Nigeria at 57. Just a few days ago, we attained that age of 57 after Nigeria's independence. And many have continued to argue that it's been 57 years of waste. Some say no. Well, we made some measure of progress. We may not be where we want to be, but it's not entirely been a wasted time. What are your thoughts? What are your impressions?
Well, Imoni, thank you for having me. I will begin by making a reference to a German philosopher called Goethe, who said that the world is in trouble, not from the very foolish or from the very wise, but half fools and half wise. If you see somebody who is completely foolish, he will be like a madman on the street, and he and everybody else know that he's mad. If you see a brilliant fellow, nobody will tell you that he's brilliant. But in this country, we are saddled with the problem of half fools and half wise. And these are the people who find themselves in positions of authority, unfortunately. Because if you ask me honestly, I don't think there's a Nigerian problem. Because an intelligent group of people, in 1914, the white man decided, without consultation to anybody, to amalgamate the North and the Southern Protectorate. 100 years after, an intelligent group anywhere in the world would have been saddled with the serious problem of asking themselves, my brothers and sisters, 100 years hence, how far have we gone? Do we have any problems? What did the white man, what did he see that made him to bring us together? How far have we gone? Have we been able to achieve the purpose for which the white man did what he did? We have also had a civil war within the interim. This is the first question, and I think it was President Jonathan who missed it. He missed it in 2014. Because saying that Nigerian unity is not negotiable, that is not the problem. The problem is the other attendant factors of that unity, which every group in this, every component part of Nigeria has passed through. All that would have happened in 2014 was for the various groups to come telling Nigeria, this is our problem. This is how we think our problem will be fixed. And every part of this country will sit down and look at their brothers, because we have now agreed that we're all brothers and sisters. So what is wrong in being in a family to discuss what your problems are?
So it's sweeping everything under the carpet. It is the lack of the ability to discuss even the concept of one Nigeria. Was it necessary? Or are we going back to the concept that Gowon had, that there was no basis for Nigerian unity? A lot of people are now believing that Gowon was wise when he said it, before some people change his opinion, because that's what is appearing to happen. I'm one of those who believe in this country, and I have no reason to change my mind. But there are attendant fundamental principles, problems which has to be discussed and rectified so that the country can move better. How can you say in 21st century world, a country as wealthy as Nigeria, Imoni, there's no town in this country where water runs for 24 hours, no light, no roads, and we are not ashamed? Recently, my president went on medical vacation. That is the new lexicon in Nigeria, medical vacation, when we should have some of the best hospitals in the world, because we have some of the brightest minds in this country. So that is what I will start by saying, that we need to talk. Nobody can run away from it.
Haven't we had enough of talking?
We
have had either constitutional conferences, we have had political conferences, we have had national conferences like the one of 2014 and the ones before then. Almost every administration has empaneled one group or the other to discuss Nigeria. Is it the failure of those who were empaneled to discuss or arrive at concrete issues, or indeed is the failure of those who were supposed to implement the resolutions from such talk shops?
You see, just like you rightly put it, it's in a talk shop, because we have failed to discuss the fundamental problems the country had. And just lay the foundation. When the white man brought us together, they didn't ask for anybody's view. So it would have been imperative for us to tell ourselves, within these 100 years, in money, where do you come from? What are the problems attendant with your people in this concept, Nigeria? Dan Olasi, where do you come from? Donyo Kupe, where do you come from? Adamu Waziri, where do you come from? And you will see that every component part of this country will have some fundamental problems which their brothers will not know about until they bring it out. This is the question of talking. It's not about whether Nigeria, because once you talk about talking, people think it's about splitting Nigeria, and they kill it. That was why President Jonathan said Nigerian unity is not, the unity of Nigeria is not being discussed. But it is the process of that unity that is causing all the dissensions we have in the country. For instance, the president was the other day in the United Nations talking about North Korea and other places that have problems. But he has more problems in his country than North Korea. A lot more problems. Nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. I'm one of those who believe in the existence of this country, in the viability of this country, if it is properly propelled. But it has to be discussed. For instance, let me give you an example. When the president came back from his first medical vacation, he had a 6 minutes broadcast. And in that 6 minutes, he was able to inform Nigerians of the meeting, 2 days meeting he had in his place in Daura with late Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu. And with due humility, I happened to have been one of those who knew about that meeting. Myself, late Ojukwu, and his late first cousin, Valentine Woso. He is dead now. First, both of them are dead. We had to have almost a day's meeting before Ojukwu traveled, and when he came back, we analyzed it. Short of saying that the president wasn't saying exactly what they discussed, I think he was being economic with the truth. Because both himself and Ojukwu discussed extensively about the problem of Nigeria. And that gave rise to their conclusion that the only way they can now change it, that we have entered the diplomatic period, a political democratic process, is for them to seek for political power. Both of them agreed to seek for political power to be able to bring a change. Unfortunately, Ojukwu died halfway, and he was lucky after 16 years to capture political power. What has he done? Because Ojukwu itemized to him what, from his concept or his point of view, the Igbo problem is, the problem of the former Eastern region is. And the president agreed with him, then as ordinary citizen, that this is easy to solve if they can handle political power. Now he is handling political power. How far has he gone? In a serious attempt, in an honest attempt. Now, tell me, Money, what is the seriousness of a young boy called Nnamdi Kanu making a statement about secession? Has anybody ever thought, how do you bring it into fruition? More than 90% of Igbos believe in this country. How do you define belief? Igbos are the only people in this country, and I say it with all sense of modesty, who leave their environment, go to other people's area, buy land, build, develop, marry their daughters, in some cases, name their children the names of the people where they live. What else could show trust? What else could show love? Any part of this country you go, you see Igbos working tirelessly, not just to make a living for themselves, but also to develop the environment where they find themselves. Is that not love? Is that not trust? Just like an investor who comes in to invest money in your country. If he doesn't have trust in your country, if he doesn't have any other interest, he will not invest his money, because that's a big risk. But ask me, look at other tribes in this country. If we must say the truth, what is the investment of the North, at least the hardcore North, in the whole of the South? Especially, let me now talk of the Southeast and South-South. If you see any Northerner in the South, Southeast or South-South, it's either a Suya Mecca or a Night Megad. The top Northerners don't know the environment that is called the Southeast or the South-South. They don't know. And my friends in the Southwest, if you see any Yoruba man in Enugu, in Port Harcourt, you see Olajide, he's a teller. Nobody owns a land. For them, the Southeast and South-South are inconsequential. So if they are inconsequential, how do you know the problems they have? How do you know that these are your brothers? That is why the Igbo man understands Nigeria more than any other tribe, because he will tell you what happens in the West, how the Yorubas are thinking. He will tell you how the TVs are thinking. He will tell you how the Hausas or Fulanis are thinking. That is what I thought one would have addressed mine, to know that these are true, honest citizens of this country who want this country to go forward. But most other tribes don't think of Nigeria in those contexts.
Given your relative closeness to the late Odumegwu Ojukwu,
Yes.
and your close association with him politically, if he were alive today, what do you think would be his response to the current challenges facing Nigeria, particularly the clamor for restructuring and the clamor, in some cases, for separatism?
Late Chief Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu will never, and I repeat it, support the separation or breakdown of Nigeria. That is the last thing on his mind.
He said that much,
Yes.
even during his last time.
Yes.
That
He
yes,
will
I
never-
know I led the Biafran
Yes.
secession, but I will never again support any such.
You know why? If he had that concept, how did the coup of 1966 fail? It failed because, as commander of 5th Battalion in Kano, he refused to support it, and he collapsed in the North. If he had supported that coup, Nigeria would have been a different story today. And that was the first indication he gave for his love of one Nigeria. And people tend to take it for granted. He actually went off all the civil war that happened because of the death of Agu Ironsi, and he felt it was unnecessary to have killed him. That's what led to the last straw that broke the camel's back. So if he was alive today, he would be among those talking of restructuring. And when I hear people condemn restructuring, just like the president did in his 57th Nigerian birthday speech, it looked worrying to me. You see, because why I'm worried, Imoni, is that President Buhari is not just president of Nigeria. By virtue of that office, he is the father of Nigeria. His wife is the mother of Nigeria. So he's the father of everybody. Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, everybody. And when you look at his body language, where he's coming from, I think he still thinks that we are in the trench fighting. I want to tell him that the war ended almost 50 years ago. Nobody is fighting anymore. We have freedom to say whatever we like. If it's against the law, you'll be brought to book. But I don't think somebody's saying, I want to secede. Why should it concern Nigeria when we should be concerned with what is happening in the Northeast? For the first time in the history of this country, we have proper insurrection lasting into years now. And we want to encourage another one when none exists. It's just like a friend of mine who said that you tell a lie when the truth is not required of you. So who is Nnamdi Kanu? He's a young boy born after the Civil War. It showed you that there are things that are missing, which discussions would have brought out. If the various ethnic groups have come, Yoruba, what is your problem in Nigeria? How do you think we can make this country better? Every component group will bring their problem on the table for everybody to look at. That is why I say there is no problem. It's just the madness of power, the arrogance of power, where some people think that they are headmasters to everybody and they decide what happens. For Christ's sake, some people have been running this country for 40-something years, and they haven't made any impression, not even on their own people. You would have thought that such people would have been thinking, If the Igbo man is the problem and he makes progress, what is it that enables the Igbo man to progress? That is what honesty would have brought to play. If the Yoruba man is the one who does something that helps Nigeria, why don't you find out what it is the Yoruba, instead of envy? Because you will not see that the statement is about envy, hate, which is very unnecessary. It will be difficult to split this country, I'll tell you. It will be very difficult, but this country must be restructured.
Do you honestly think that the problem or the challenge is that of one tribe or against the other, or one group against the other? Is it not a question of elite conspiracy against the people of Nigeria, whether they are Igbo, they are Yoruba, they are Hausa, they are minorities? When the elites get together, they seem to have a common basis of agreement.
I must tell you, there's elite conspiracy only in one aspect: in stealing our money. That is where they have, there's complacency. Look at the National Assembly. You don't hear anybody they are talking about whether they are paid so much money. You don't hear, they're all comfortable. Once it comes to sharing of money, Nigerian unity cannot be discussed. But can you think of, the president was in London. One morning I woke up and I was looking at a group of Nigerians giving an ultimatum to the Igbos to leave the North. I've never heard of any such thing. Is this not more serious than what Nnamdi Kanu is verbally talking about? That was a genocidal threat. Nearly the same thing that happened before the pogrom in 1966. That some group gets up and said Igbos must leave by a date like this. And Imoni, as I speak, all they did was to suspend that threat. They have not rescinded it. And the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has not made a mention of that major threat than an ethnic group in this country. It is nothing serious because the Igbos are involved. That gives a lot of people, reason to start thinking. Wasn't Gowon, after all, correct that there was no basis for Nigerian unity? And I pray that he remains wrong, because I believe in Nigerian unity. Well, whether my president believes in that, I don't know. Because I read what Mike Ozohome wrote after his broadcast, and what so many other people have said. You can see an inherent hate or dislike. I don't like to use the word hate, because the kind of relationship Buhari developed with Ojukwu convinced me that he was a true Nigerian. I tell you honestly. But when I see his utterances now, and unfortunately Ojukwu is not alive anymore, I don't know where he's coming from. And like I said, I want to advise him further. We are no more fighting a civil war. Let him not create one in a vacuum, because there's no war existing. He is the president and commander-in-chief of Nigeria. He can turn this country around anyhow he wants it. And I'm praying fervently that God will keep him alive. Because what has held this country down also is corruption. We are finished. He has my 110% support in corruption, in his fight against corruption. But even though he's not doing it properly. Because if not, tell me how the secretary to government will be walking about, living in government quarters. He's secretary to government. Tell me how so many ministers who have been found wanting by judicial commissioners inquiry in their various states, who find their way back to APC, are walking about and nothing is happening to them. So it shows you that there are double standards in the fight against that corruption. But most importantly, I'll ask the president, anything you do for this country that cannot outlive you, it's unfortunate, because you're just wasting your time. It has happened before. When he took over power with Idiabo, he was the first person who brought in the concept of Muslim ticket, Northern ticket. And Nigerians were looking at it. He started it. Northern not. Muslim. And he didn't think it meant anything. But
that was a military coup.
That was a military coup.
Not in a democratic dispensation.
That was not the first military coup. That was not the first. It has never happened like that. Because people thought that was very divisive. That gave an indication of lack of understanding of Nigerian problem, which is now making most of the Southwest to clamor for restructuring. So what I'm saying is, the president has to sit down, because God has given him an opportunity to make this country better. One, first, because he has an advantage. Nobody is accusing him of corruption. And he's one of the few people that have run the affairs of this country that nobody can really come out pointedly to say he did this. Maybe people around him may have done one or two things wrong. But he has that advantage that nobody else has. So I want him to apply honesty to that advantage for the benefit of this country. Let him sleep, think, pray to God to give him the Solomon's wisdom that will make him not to apportion blames when none exists, where none exists. Because where he's looking at, there's no problem. Igbos are the only people who will back him when the ships are down. Because Igbos will not run away from this country. We have no reason to run away from this country. Where will anybody go? Even if the amalgamation in 2014 was a white man's conscription, but it appears to be working to the extent that we all now know ourselves, but we are refused to solve our problems. That's all we're talking about.
So restructuring has suddenly become a swan song, and
Yes.
some think that it's just an elite agenda. For you, what we restructuring translate to? What does it mean? I mean, if you were today to give a blueprint to the federal government on how to restructure Nigeria, what would that translate to?
You know what it means. I don't know how old you were when Ironsi died. The principal reason that was given in the coup that killed Ironsi was that he was a centralist. He was trying to centralize authority. That was the reason why he was killed. But today, the government of Nigeria has not departed from that Ironsi's concept, because he felt like the coup plotters felt that the regions were going a lot further away.
They were too powerful for the center to control.
So when the coup failed, Ironsi wanted to, he only stayed under 6 months and he died. And the subsequent people that took over maintained the same system that they killed him for. And that is the system now people are now arguing. Restructuring means to effectively make the federal character work. That's the concept of federalism. And it's not different anywhere in the world. That states become fairly independent. We have a center, not necessarily weak, but a center that has defined responsibility so that states have more to do. They develop at their pace. If any state doesn't want to go to school, it is entirely their business not to want to go to school. If any group wants to go to school, they should go to school. If any group wants to industrialize, they should industrialize. That's what federalism means. Competitiveness. So that a governor will be ashamed if most of his citizens are out there begging for arms when others are making first class and so in universities. Let me tell you, in British Parliament today, you have 7 Nigerians who are members of the British Parliament, out of which 5 are Igbos. And I'm proud that they can hold their own anywhere in the world. That's what I want every ethnic group to aim at. Not this idea of coming to share money. Every month they come to Abuja to share money. Nobody is thinking anymore. We cannot continue to run this country this way. Now the countries, a lot of states have collapsed. A lot of states have collapsed. But I must tell you also, most of the states in the southeast are paying their salaries conveniently. Look at Anambra. The governor pays salary at the end of the 25th of every month. And it's not an oil-producing country, state. Makes almost 2 billion monthly on internally generated revenue. I would have expected other states to go down to Anambra and find out what the governor is doing that makes it possible for him to do what he's doing. These are the kind of things that can make Nigeria move forward. Not when you hear progress in Lagos, there's no progress in Taraba, there's no progress in Calabar or somewhere. I want us to move together, but we must have to understand that we have fundamental problems which must have to be addressed for this country to move.
With devolution of more powers to the states, the component units of this federation now solve that problem?
Well, it depends on what type of powers. Because examples have also shown. Look at the local government elections being held all over the states. No other state has ever been able to win 1 seat.
No other political party
has been able to win 1 seat, which is so disgraceful. It shows you what will also happen if we make states to own their police force. Many people will not wake up from sleep. You will be locked up. I know I'm one of those who don't support a state creation until we have a literate class. Because you look at these governors, some of them are criminals. Elections, but they stay, and the federal government allows them to win elections in their own states.
But that's rather being very generalistic in saying that people are criminals.
No. What I'm saying is that in terms of that somebody wins an election and you don't want the result to be announced, that is political criminality. Because that person also won an election from a party that is not his own at the center. So why should he stop other people from winning election in his state? This happens everywhere.
So what kind of powers should be devolved to these federating units?
Powers of development, something like NEPA. People should be able to do their educational programs. People should be able to set up their own electricity board, give water to the type happens in America, in England. We're not supposed to have one central power. People should be able to control their resources to a large extent. I'm not one who believes also complete control of resources, because the basis of Nigerian unity also will be that will be our brother's keeper. But our brother's keeper doesn't mean making somebody lazy, that they don't think, or they don't want to think anymore of how to make their state work. Because there are so many resources, natural resources, all over this country, but nobody wants to think about it because of the time it will take for it to come to fruition. We are now all clamoring for money that is shared at the end of every month. And when that money is shared, we want to find out how many governors are using it for the good of their states. There's no law that makes it possible for the legislative houses to find out what the governors do with it, because governors put in the legislation. So until we have genuine Nigerians, honest, genuine Nigerians, managing our affairs in the 36 states, our problems will remain, even when we restructure. Because the same individual that will be restructured into the various things, and if they carry corruption back to those systems, then the child will still be crying.
So which should come first? Is it the political or economic restructuring that many are advocating for, or good governance?
Because some people might be thinking of political restructuring just for political advantage, for domination purposes.
Definitely.
In their local environment. I think the first thing is for the president to use his good offices for a change of concept. Today we don't have history taught in our schools. Isn't that unfortunate? I don't know why. There are no history lessons anywhere in Nigerian secondary schools. So people don't even know our background. They don't know where we are coming from. I would have expected this president, though he's sick, but God will help him, to form a mantra of peace, of preaching to Nigeria, why it is to be good, what makes him, because Nigerians accept, like I said, he has one advantage. Nigerians believe he's very honest, he's transparent, and nothing has proved otherwise. He would have used this as a symbol of leadership for people to emulate him, and he should be doing things that will outlive him, because like the battle of corruption now, the PDP and other parties feel that they are being fought against. If in the next 4 years another party comes into power, they forget that most of them will be dumped into prison because of what is happening now. They will forget the good efforts or good intentions of Buhari. That is my concern. Where you look at corruption as just affecting one group of people, and all those around you are sent to Buhari. And when they leave PDP and run into APC, they become sense. Nothing happened to them. So you can see the double standard going on. They accuse PDP of corruption. Now, most people in PDP, especially the very prominent ones, have run into APC, and nobody is talking about corruption with respect to them. Former governors, former ministers. So, and I expect my president to be thinking in that direction. You can see APC is not functioning anymore. It's even worse than PDP now. It is not fun. I have read people saying they hardly have working committee meetings, NEC meetings. I haven't heard of their NEC meeting. So the problem that in PDP has been translated into APC. So if we restructure and the same elements of people are also managing the affairs of Nigeria, don't you think it will just be changing, from one
in other words,
disaster?
we should aim at good governance
Before
we begin to think
of
of
restructuring.
Yes.
Because there has to be, like I use my state as an example. A time there was some 8 years ago, all the information about Anambra State was for the wrong reasons. Kidnapping, robbery, data. But when this governor came, first 2 years, Anambra is the safest state today in this country. You can sleep with your 2 eyes closed. That is good governance. He's entered into industrialization. He's entered into agriculture. I would expect governors to start looking, because if water is running in all villages in this country and there is life, do you know nobody will remember about the word restructuring? But because there are obvious, discrepancies in developmental processes, obvious neglect, and all these people run into London, run into America, and live good life, and come back here and subjugate us to penury. That's an act of wickedness, because it does not take rocket science to make water flow.
Now let's look at the process of this restructuring. The president in his Independence Day broadcast said, all those who seek restructuring or agitating for restructuring ought to go through the state assemblies and the National Assembly. They have representatives at these levels, and not for as against those who are seeking perhaps another body to do this so-called restructuring.
Well, but like I said before, I would think the president is being economic with the truth. Because the concept of restructuring to some people in this country, especially people in the north, believe that it is breaking down Nigeria, which is unfortunate. Majority of them believe it is to split Nigeria, is to stop revenue flow. That's all they're thinking about. Money, money, money. They think that restructuring means that Nigeria is going to break down, it's going to split. And nobody is making any serious effort to tell them. It's not true. And because of that concept, look at what they are doing in the constitutional amendment in the National Assembly. Come to devolution of power, it failed in the House of Reps. Because most Northerners have been told by their people, don't vote for this. If you vote for this, money will not be shared. There will be no money for this, there will be no this, no this, which is not true. If we can't tell ourselves the truth, you know what's unfortunate? We are even talking about all these things. How about our population? Imoni, if you're married to a wife with 4 children, this is a statistical fact. That is the first statistics of life, that you have 1 wife, you have 4 children, or you have 3 wives, you have 15 children. Do you know how many we are in this country? When will even lie with life? With life. So the first lie is the lie of Nigeria and its population. Because I don't believe we're up to 170 million people in this country. If we were, and with the stealing and the robbing of our treasury, there will be an outright war in the streets on the streets. I don't believe so. Because we have to first tell ourselves the truth. It is because we are not one country. That is why people forge data. Forge data. If a state that is 2 million, they write 5 million. It does not happen anywhere in the world. The first truth you tell yourself is about your identity, about your number. But because we are component parts brought together, that's why I said initially, after 100 years, Nigerians will have sat down to ask pertinent questions. In these 100 years, do we have problems? If we did, what are these problems? From every tribal group, from every element. Tell us what you want us to do to improve your lot. Tell us what you want us to do. But nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to debate that. So you just talk of national unity as if it's a national anthem. Nigerian unity is not negotiable. Between who and who? When I saw the president saying that Nigerian unity of Nigeria is settled. Settled between who and who? Between him and Ojukwu? Or between him and who? And you make the rest of us look stupid. And the problems in Nigeria continues to mount, exacerbate, get even worse. And instead of sitting down, we are not talking about the unity of Nigeria is there. It is the process of the unity, the maintenance of that unity that is what is called restructuring. How do we maintain that unity so that it does not collapse? And people don't want to talk about it. That is being dishonest to ourselves if we don't believe that there are problems which we have to discuss. And since the president came into power, nobody has told Nigerians what is the causative problem in the Northeast, that suddenly Nigeria has become a terrorist area. Just like they inadvertently declared IPOD a terrorist group. Even America and Britain said, no, they are not a terrorist group. They are just people agitating for their rights and privileges. But it was easy and fast for them to so declare. And those who ordered the Igbos to leave the North, no mention has been made of what they did. It shows you again the honesty of that national unity when you look at it broadly speaking. I would have expected the president to look incisively into what has happened in the Northeast, a rather very quiet part of this country. It is also, corruption is part of the problem there. Because I was born in the North. Until after the Civil War, my state of origin, I write Kano City. That's where God found it necessary for my parents to live. And I was given birth to. That was my concept of Nigeria. I was in the first set of National Youth Service Corps, which I did in Northwestern State in 1973 when I left the university. I never thought my concept of Nigeria was universal. It was love. But my president does not show love. And as a Christian, I say love overshadows everything. Anger, envy. Once you have love, I can't plan evil against you because there is love. But when I see my president speak, I don't see love.
Do you therefore agree that one of the major problems of Nigeria is the elite? That the elite have failed the Nigerian people, the Nigerian population, in very many ways?
Look, Imoni,
because they have been privileged.
This description of elite, you know, elite has cut across every segment of society now. Initially, you said that elite is the educated class, the working class. But you know the danger that is now called Nigeria. Every Nigerian is a potential oppressor. Today, he's an oppressed. He's hoping for the status quo to remain so that his children will oppress tomorrow, may have an advantage to oppress tomorrow. That is why suddenly you hear of a minister. He's of no address. from nowhere. He becomes a minister. He becomes a governor. The names of Azikiwes, Awolowos, this, you don't hear them. So the tendency to oppress, and oppression means also stealing of money, not doing bad governance. It's what Nigerians are waiting, because that's the only way. Bad governance gives them the opportunity to steal money. Because if you have good governance, you cannot steal money. You give a Nigerian 10 naira to function, he eats 80 kobo. And looks at the remaining 20 kobo. You can't do anything, he eats the remaining. And say, don't worry, God will provide. We have that alibi to play. God will provide, don't worry.
Isn't that giving rise to, by the inequalities that we have in the system, that people are beginning to say, well, if I do not have equal opportunities with other people in society, I must therefore become a privileged person of society so that I can join the goodies of society.
You see why it is even more dangerous? It is better to have a literate unemployed than an illiterate unemployed. But now it's the other way around. Because a literate unemployed is now more dangerous in Nigeria. His danger begins first with his parents. Continue begging for money. One day the mother won't bring money. He starts wanting to stab the mother or the father. The little thing, if they are selling pepper or something, he must have that money because he must have to change his pants. He must have to buy a shirt. That is the danger we are having, and it is bad governance that is giving rise to that.
Okay. Now, at the height of the IPOB agitations and all of that, there was this very open threat to the Anambra governorship elections, which is coming up on November 18. Now, does that threat still exist? Are we likely to have very peaceful conduct of elections in Anambra?
Well, the governor of Anambra State told the president yesterday, when they met, that there will be, on his side, that there will be a free and fair election, if he guarantees it, because it's left for the federal government. But, you know, this leads me to another question before I answer your comment on the issue you raised. Tell me how a father, if Buhari sees himself as the father of all of us, can send a python to be dancing for his children. It is a very negatively thought out nomenclature. Python dance. It is.
Those are military coinages.
No, this is a dangerous military coinage.
We have crocodiles smiling in the south, and now they have moved to the southwest.
What is the one in the south?
The python, crocodile smile.
What was the resultant effect? Escalated the problem there until the vice president went around begging people. You know, he did a lot of job in this interim period he was acting president. He went to the south not less than 5 times, talking to people. Again, that is communication, talking to people, listening to their problem. That's why I'm praying my president to want to listen to people's problem, not sit down and define and hold people. Say you're doing python dance to the whole of Southeast. This leads me to the election. There are many people who are saying, okay, let us finish this python dance and see how many people that will be alive. If you know what python can do when it appears, we don't know how many people will be alive to vote in Anambra State. But we pray God that the python does not swallow all of us.
But obviously the military, in coining that phrase, may not have consulted with the president or indeed the president.
And then the president has...
like I said, military coinage. When they did crocodile smile, they didn't have to consult anybody to do so.
You see, if crocodile, you need to go to the water to meet crocodile. That's why they coin it. For python, you can meet a python anywhere. And if you are doing the python dance, that means you're telling people, if you come out, I'll swallow you. But that's not important. What's important is, how can a father hear that the military is doing a python dance for his children and he doesn't say anything? Is that a good father? Python is not a good language. And they had no reason to even use that kind of language because nothing is happening in the Southeast. I tell you, besides what Nnamdi Kanu is saying, using an opportunity of lack of good governance. That's, again, what has happened. Because if there was good governance, especially in Abia, and I must tell you authoritatively, 16 years, this was Ojikalo who is talking, had 8 years of disaster in that place. If there was good governance, somebody like Nnamdi Kanu would not have emerged. Would not have emerged in the first place because of bad governance.
But when you say that nothing was happening in the Southeast, we saw Nnamdi Kanu's tirades, and of course, went beyond that to even come up with what he called security forces, Biafran security forces.
You see,
Shouldn't that have been of concern to
I have
any
lived,
responsible government?
Imoni, since I came back from National Youth Service in June 1974, I've lived in Enugu, even though I'm from Anambra. I was a major in Biafran Army. Proudly so. All those things you hear Nnamdi Kanu say or not say, 99% of people don't know about it. But they listen to it. Whether tirades, it's spoken word.
Yes, but
what is spoken word?
But wasn't that the failure of elders of the region like you? We should have moderated.
No, you don't moderate
language.
what you have no control over, because the young men found themselves disarmed, irrelevant, not part of the system. Some pass entrances and they can't get admissions because of certain factors you and I know happen in this society. There are a lot of problems which have to be discussed, and nobody wants to discuss it. And he says that is better in the system. That is the lack of ability to discuss fundamental problems.
So were the elders actually using Nnamdi Kanu to pass a message across to the larger Nigerian
I will
society?
tell you, no elder, and the president knows that nobody is using Nnamdi Kanu. It's just a group of young men and women who felt left out, and that the only way they can make their point is by agitation.
And they could not be moderated by the older people who saw the evils of the civil war.
People have been talking, and most of your news items have been carrying it. A lot of elders have been talking. I have spoken a lot. I've been on this network. I've been on channels saying the same thing. And that was what I said. I think it was somebody reminded me today that I did say the president should address these issues. That I pray God that he will not be the last president of Nigeria. I said it on this channel. A top Yoruba called me this morning to remind me of what I said, and this is where my country is. Simple problems of sitting down. Talk. What is wrong in talking? Why is anybody afraid of talking? Tell me what your problems are. We'll tell you the ones we can do and the ones we cannot do for now. Nobody will kill the other.
President says we can continue this talking at the state and national assembly.
And he knows it is not true, because the attempts we have made in National Assembly, they have all failed.
So where should we talk, and what should
The president should be the chairman of the talk shop. The president, I know he loves this country, should be the chairman of the talk shop. Get the various elders from the various component groups. Get even Nnamdi Kanu, he's his grandson. Put him down with him. I've been hearing you talk rubbish. Nnamdi, what is it you're talking about? He is the father. He should talk. If the president brings in Nnamdi Kanu and talks to him, all this nonsense will stop. I tell you in all honesty. After Yar'Adua stopped it with amnesty in the South. Everybody has a price. It depends on how you approach that person and you make your presentation. Not ab initio calling somebody a terrorist. That means you have drawn the battle line, like he said in his speech, that the battle line, red line. What red line? When your children are agitating. He should also be worried that it's his own children that are agitating. That showed also lack of leadership. Why should his children be agitating and he wouldn't talk to them? Must it be only elders from the South that will talk to Nnamdi Kanu and his group? He's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's the father of Nigeria. So he's free to involve anybody he wants to. He can invite me. And people will give, the question is, if you are given an advice, will you take it, will you work with it? If you have not made, a formed up opinion of what you want to do. Nobody is God. Let nobody play God.
In 3 years' time, Nigeria will be 60 years.
Yes.
What are your projections?
We'll still be one country with more problems. That is when all these things we are saying, not just me alone, everybody is saying, will become a lot more manifest. And if there is nobody with a strong will to control the country, then the problem begins. That is my advice to the president. You have an very unenviable role now of being a very good Nigerian. It's unenviable for certain reasons. He is the only one who has the capacity now to talk from a vantage point of some level of honesty, and people will listen to him. It is not war. It is what he has to sit down and listen to people. Because if he is thinking and knows what will happen when he's gone, let him look around and see those who have courage. Because I know the kind of person he is. There are a lot of people who have courage that are also guilty of what he's fighting against, which is corruption. They're all thieves. They have stolen our money. So they have no willpower anymore to address the Nigerian problem. Once you are corrupted, you cannot address the problem. He is not corrupted. He can address the problem by engaging with people.
All right. Chief Dan Ulasi, a frontline politician and elder statesman, joining us here on People, Politics and Power. We'll bring you a fresh edition when we return the next day. My name is Imoni Amarere. Do have a wonderful time for the rest of today. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.